Hello students, in the previous lecture we have learned about the dense connective tissue and the skeletal tissue. In today's lecture we learn about the fluid connective tissue, muscular tissue and the nervous tissue. Fluid connective tissue is also called as a vascular tissue. This tissue is devoid of fibers, that means fibers are absent. Now remember, what were the three components of the connective tissue? It was matrix, cells and fibers. So if fibers are removed from the fluid connective tissue, what remains is the cells and the matrix. So the fluid connective tissue consists of only two components, cells and matrix. The matrix of the fluid connective tissue is very watery, it is fluidy. So it's called as a fluid connective tissue. Fluid connective tissue consists of blood and lymph. Blood consists of plasma and the blood cells. Plasma accounts for 55% and the remaining are the blood cell, that is 45%. The blood cells present in the blood are erythrocytes called as RBC or red blood cell, leukocytes called as WBC or white blood cells, and thrombocytes also called as the platelets. Okay, now how can we differentiate between the plasma and the blood cells? Plasma is the watery fluid in which your blood cells are suspended. Suppose if you have a beaker, that beaker has mixture of different types of substances in it. After some time what will happen? The substances are going to settle at different level according to their density. So in the same way, if we take a test tube which has presence of the blood and if we centrifuge it, what will happen? The components, they are going to settle at different levels. The supernatant, the substance that will come on the top of the tube, which will be called as the plasma, and the heavier substances, which is the blood cell, that they are going to settle at the bottom. Okay, so the watery part of the blood is the plasma and the remaining cells, they are the blood cells, also referred as blood corpuscles. Now we'll discuss the functions of the blood. Blood helps in transport of oxygen and nutrients to the lungs and tissues. Okay, it helps in better transfusion or better transport of oxygen, carbon dioxide and the nutrients throughout our body. Okay, it helps in forming the blood clots to prevent the excess blood loss. If you get injury, what happens? Blood starts oozing out. So whether the blood remains the same forever or the blood clot, the blood after some time stops flowing, that is called as blood clotting. Blood helps in carrying the cells and antibodies that fight infection. And blood also brings the waste products to kidney and liver so that it can be eliminated from the body. And the blood helps in regulating your body temperature. The second fluid connective tissue is the lymph. Lymph lacks RBC, platelets and certain plasma proteins. So what is left in lymph now? It's only WBC. The functions of lymph are, it helps in absorption of fatty acids, right? And it has presence of immune cells. So it also provides immunity to our body. Now how does lymph help in absorption of fatty acids? This point we will again discuss when we will study the chapter digestive system. See, this is the structure of your small intestine, which has a lumen. Lumen means the central hollow cavity. If you look at the wall of the small intestine, it has presence of the villi. Okay, and these villi, they are the finger-like projections present in your small intestine. When you look at the structure of one single villi, what will you see? There is a thin surface of layer which is formed of, tell me which is the epithelium which forms the villi. Drop your answers in the comment box. It also has presence of the capillary, and there is a central lymph vessel which is called as a lacteal. So the lumen of the small intestine consists of the nutrients, and this nutrient has presence of the fatty acid. Fatty acid, instead of being absorbed to the capillary, it is absorbed to the lacteal. And what is a lacteal? It is a lymph vessel. So the lymph also has a function of absorption of fatty acids. These are a few types of WBCs present in our body: monocyte, eosinophil, basophil, lymphocytes, and the neutrophils. Now the muscular tissues present in our body. Muscular tissue is a tissue again which helps in movement of your bones. Your bones cannot move alone. So what brings about movement and locomotion of the bone? It is muscular tissue. Why so? Because muscles have the property to contract. The first one is a skeletal muscle, also called as a striated muscles. These striated muscles, they have striations. They are tubular, multinucleated fibers and attached to the skeleton, that is your bones. These muscles, they are attached to the bones so that they can bring about the movement. These muscles are voluntary. What is voluntary? Voluntary means something which can be controlled. Like you can control clapping your hands, you can control standing up, sitting down, doing certain works, running, walking. These all are the voluntary movements. So when you can control the movement, such movement is called as a voluntary movement. So this muscular tissue, that is a skeletal muscle, is voluntary. That means the movement by this muscle can be controlled. And this is present in your arms, in your legs, wherever in your body you can control the movement. All those places will have presence of the skeletal muscle. If the question comes, you have to identify this muscular tissue on the basis of its structure. Always remember to see whether it is tubular or not. This structure, which is skeletal muscle, it is tubular and unbranched. Okay. The next one is the smooth muscle. Smooth muscle has spindle shaped. Spindle shaped means thread like, tapering or pointed towards the end. Non-striated, if you look at the picture, there are no striations. There are no light and dark bands. If you see this structure, if you see the skeletal muscles, you can see certain bands in between, light band, dark bands. These light and the dark bands, they are called as a striations. So if a muscular tissue has presence of these light and the dark bands, they are called as striated. Whereas your smooth muscles, they do not have presence of these striations. There are no light and the dark bands. So they are called as non-striated uninucleated fibers, because there is only one single nucleus inside each fiber. It occurs in the walls of internal organ and is involuntary. Now tell me, can you control the movement of your stomach? Can you control the movement of your posterior esophagus, your food pipe, or your small intestine? No, we cannot, because all these structures, they are made up of the smooth muscle, and the movement of these organs cannot be controlled. Why they cannot be controlled? Because they are made up of the involuntary muscles. So the involuntary muscles and the involuntary movements are those movements which you cannot control. So smooth muscles are the muscles responsible for the involuntary movement which cannot be controlled. So it is present in all the places where you cannot control your movement, like your small intestine, your large intestine, iris of your eye. You cannot control the movement of your stomach, any other body part which you cannot control. All those places you have the presence of the smooth muscles. The third category is the cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscles has striated, branched and uninucleated fibers. If you look at this picture also, there are certain light and the dark bands, so they are striated. And if you look at the structure, they are tubular but they are branched. Whereas in the case of the skeletal muscles, they were tubular but they were unbranched. So what is the key difference between the skeletal and the cardiac muscles? That is branching. Cardiac muscles, they are branched uninucleated fibers, and there is only one single nucleus in each fiber, whereas in the case of the skeletal muscle it was multinucleated. Cardiac muscle, as the name tells us, it occurs in the wall of the heart, and since we cannot control our heartbeat, it is an involuntary structure. So it is present in your heart. So you can easily differentiate between the skeletal muscle, the smooth muscle, and the cardiac muscle based on its structure. Skeletal was tubular, unbranched, multinucleated. Smooth was thread-like, tapering towards the end, no striations, and again uninucleated. Cardiac muscles, striations are there, but it is branched and again uninucleated fibers. This was the difference on the basis of the structure. Question can also come on the basis of its location and its function. Okay, so if it comes about function, you can write which one is voluntary and which one is involuntary, and location you all know. You have to tell where what all locations this tissue is present. The last tissue is the nervous tissue. Nervous tissue is a tissue which is very important structure. Because of the nervous tissue only we are able to think, our existence is because of the nervous tissue, and the unit of the nervous tissue is neuron. This is a structure of a neuron. Now we are going to study each and every structure of the neuron. The first part of the neuron is the cell body, which is the cell of the neuron. It organizes and keeps all the cells function. It makes the cell functional. The second part is the nucleus of the cell body. The third part is a cell membrane. So if there is a cell, there will be a cell membrane, and the function of cell membrane is protection. The fourth one is the dendrites, sometimes also referred as dendron. Dendrites receives the signal from the other cell. It can be the sensory cells present in your skin. It can be any other neuron. So these dendrites, the function is to receive. Next you have presence of the axons. Dendrites, they are the short processes that comes out of the cyton or the cell body, and the axon, it is a long process. Function of the axon is to transfer the signal to the other cells and the organ. Now where are they going to transfer? Either they are going to transfer the messages to your brain or the spinal cord, or they are going to send the messages to the next neuron. Next you have the axon fibers. They end up in a structure which is called as axon terminal, which forms the junctions, and the junctions formed by these axon terminal and some other dendrite is called as a synapse or synaptic junction. Now you have presence of myelin sheath. Myelin sheath, they are formed by the Schwann cells. Myelin sheath covers your axon fiber. Okay. Now if we look at this structure, there is a central axon. Okay, this is your axon, and this axon is covered by the Schwann cell. Suppose this is the structure which is axon, this is the cross section of the axon. The Schwann cell, they are going to come and wrap up the axon completely. Okay, so this is how they are presence of the sheath. So here these layers are called as a sheath. Sheath means the layer. So and myelin, because it has presence of the fat. Okay, so there is presence of the myelin sheath, and what forms the myelin sheath? The Schwann cell, they are going to form the myelin sheath. So if in this structure there is one single Schwann cell, so it will also have nucleus. The nucleus will lie in the outermost layer of the Schwann cell. Okay. The next structure, it is a node of Ranvier. Node of Ranvier, it is a junction or the gap between the myelin sheath or between two Schwann cells. The gap will be called as a node of Ranvier. Okay, so these were the parts of the neuron which is concerned with your syllabus that you have to study with the topic nervous system. So the chapter ends over here. Thank you.